AFR Talk. Ben Johnson in for Crane Durham. And we were just speaking with Dana Cody about the Obama administration's attempt to demonize pro-life leaders as terrorists. Of course, we saw the 2009 report on so-called right-wing extremism saying that single-issue advocates and people who are concerned about the Constitution, people who are against globalism and world government, they're all potential murderers. They're all part of a great, vast conspiracy to blow things up. They're all potential terrorists. And all of them should be investigated. We have certain advisors of the president, like Cass Sunstein, saying we should intellectually infiltrate their organizations and sow cognitive dissonance among them in a way that is completely forbidden by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, something that we believe in here at AFR Talk. Here today with us, as I have promised, Andy Moore, who is a pro-life activist in Dallas, was questioned by FBI agents. It appears as though the Obama administration, particularly the Justice Department, is trying to get as much information on the pro-life movement, on the churches that are involved, on the people who show up in protests, and exactly who is involved. It appears as though they're putting together a vast dossier, and they're using a lot of government pressure to get this information. Andy Moore, welcome to Nothing But Truth.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you with us. I'm sorry that it's under these circumstances. Now, for those who are not familiar, they may know, I know that you're very well known there in Dallas and that you, of course, are very frequently protesting in front of the Southwest Women's Surgery Center, which is, of course, right there in north central Texas. And you have protested there for some time. People may be familiar with your mother-in-law, who is Jill Stanek of JillStanek.com, who exposed the Born Alive form of abortion as well. And she exposed that back when Barack Obama was a state senator in the state of Illinois. So she may have been at the top of their hit list for some time at any rate. Now, you were protesting in front of this Dallas abortion clinic. There was a question about you using a bullhorn, and all of a sudden the feds show up. What happened?
Yes, Ben. Well, there were three incidents or elements, you could say, that led to the FBI knocking at our front door. So the first of them was I bought myself a bullhorn, which I called my baby because I love it. Anyway, so I was out there in front of the clinic, and I was actually reading prenatal development facts outside the surgery sort of end of the building. And anyway, so I did that for about 10 minutes or so until the police pulled up and said, please switch that off, which I did promptly. And then the second incident really was an allegation that I had trespassed on the property of the Southwestern abortion business. And so there were about 3 or 4 police cars there at that time, and the allegation was completely untrue, and there was actually an attorney standing right beside me at that point, and he vouched for me as well. And then the third element was, as the FBI agents told me just a few days ago, was complaints from local pro-lifers as well as abortion clinic staff that I was being too aggressive outside the facility there. So, yeah, that was what led them to my front door, apparently.
Being too aggressive, did they put any kind of specificity, whatever, to what it might mean to be aggressive?
No, not really. There was, the only instances they referred to was, I guess, the allegation of trespassing, the bullhorn. Sometimes I've just read passages from the Bible at the top of my voice. Well, not the top of my voice, but, loud enough for, people at a distance to hear.
Yeah, so just bring them the word of truth. That's being too aggressive. The Bible is too aggressive for the FBI, apparently. Now, when they got there, they said that you were using a bullhorn, and as soon as the police said that you were doing this, you shut it off.
Yes.
They said that you were trespassing when someone who was right there, who was an attorney, said you are not trespassing, just as they did, by the way, in the Mary Susan Pine case in Florida. They said that she was trespassing, and in point of fact, a car stopped and asked her to bring them a pamphlet, and she walked over, and they said that was trespassing. They said it was blocking an entrance. And then this unsubstantiated, vague, vapid charge of being too aggressive, whatever that means. This is what brought them there. Once they showed up, what sorts of questions were they asking you? What did they want to know?
Right, well, they were asking me all sorts of questions. They brought up the fact that my mother-in-law, Jill Stanek, is obviously a prominent leader in the pro-life movement. They asked me if I had threatened anyone, and they warned me against threatening anyone. They asked me, for instance, how long had I known my wife, what affiliations did I have, whether it was church groups or pro-life groups. Another particularly interesting question they had was that they wanted me to tell them if I had the names of any pro-life individuals who I considered were, too aggressive or potentially violent. So they wanted some names. They wondered if I had been to Austin recently. Just all kinds of questions, really. They were extremely polite, although I was told later by a few pro-life veteran friends that that's generally the way of the FBI. They are fairly professional and polite.
Sure, good cop, bad cop, and you attract more flies with honey, I guess. But this is interesting to me because the sorts of questions they're asking. I mean, they show up with this ill-defined charge that you're being too aggressive, and then they want to and you're using a bullhorn to read the Bible in front of an abortion clinic, and they want to know if you know anyone else who's aggressive, and then they want to know what churches you're affiliated with, and the sorts of people who are there. It sounds very much as though they're trying to put together information or a dossier or some kind of great information packet on the people who are involved in the pro-life movement. It sounds more like they're interested in filling in some kind of a research paper than it does in punishing any real crime, because there wasn't a crime with you and there wasn't a crime with anybody else.
Well, to be honest, Ben, there's more to me than just standing outside this particular clinic. I also run a website called Abortion Wiki, and the idea of that website, abortionwiki.org, is to essentially document the entire abortion industry and lobby. And so I have actually been documenting workers and, the abortionists, etc., from this particular clinic I was standing outside. And, just basically pro-choice organizations all around the United States and all around the world. So it would be my thought that the FBI were at the front door. The reasons they gave me were, these claims of being too aggressive outside this abortion business. But I do believe that they had their eye on me, particularly because of this website.
That really sets off a lot of alarm bells because for the story, I wrote a story about this after your mother-in-law, Jill Stanek, posted something on jillstanek.com. It's on lifesitenews.com, and it's got a video of you with a bullhorn showing how incredibly aggressive you are. All you're doing is speaking into a bullhorn. Nothing more to it than that.
Look, when I had the bullhorn there, I was saying such things as, I want to tell all of you there inside the clinic that us out here, we have nothing but love in our hearts for you, and, we want the best for you and your unborn child. There was nothing threatening. It wasn't aggressive. Of course, it was unwanted, but it was not aggressive.
Well, that's right. Right. Now, for this story, I interviewed Troy Newman, who's the president of Operation Rescue. They do something very similar. They also expose what's going on in the abortion industry when people botch an abortion, when they violate laws, when they have health violations, which is almost all the time. He said from the 1990s forward, their mail was rifled, their phones were tapped, they were followed around, and he believes that they're following them now. He said that a government source tipped them off, and they have reason to believe that people are reading their emails and tracking them even now.
Look, Troy was one of the first people I rang after this FBI visit to get some ideas from him, and he told me, yes, you must assume that your phone is tapped and that your emails are being read. So that was a bit of a shock, really.
Well, no doubt. Now, one of the things that your mother-in-law pointed out as well, people may gather from your charming accent, you are not an American. You speak a better form of English than we do, and you are from New Zealand. Now, the FBI agent said something about that as well, didn't they? Something about spending time away from your wife and children. What did they say? We have about 1 minute, by the way.
They were aware that I was from New Zealand and that I was newly married. And, in fact, my wife and child were home at the time of the FBI visit. So at one point, they were talking about, if arrest was to happen, if I was to be arrested, it would not be a good thing because I would be separated from my wife and child, for a period of time. So, that was said they had concern on their faces. But I actually thought about that later, and I thought, could they have been just sowing seeds of fear, trying to get me to back down from the stand I'm taking against abortion?
Yeah, you've got a really nice business here. We'd hate for somebody to come and throw bricks through your windows, that sort of thing.
Look,
yes.
There's one other really important part of the story, I think, and that is I received advice that I should not go back to that specific clinic, on that next Saturday. So I didn't. I went to another clinic, one called Abortion Advantage, which is, a nice
we get
name
about
for
20
abortion.
seconds. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, anyway, it was outside that clinic. It was the first time in my life that I have had an opportunity to have a really heart-to-heart discussion with an abortion-minded woman. And a young woman named Crystal, who had gone in, she'd paid half of the abortion costs, she'd had the ultrasound, she'd had a blood test, and she came out and she was crying as she looked at her ultrasound. Anyway, so I was able to sit down with her, I prayed with her, and eventually I was able to encourage her and her friends to come into the pregnancy counselling centre, which was very close by to the abortion clinic.
Thank God. I'm glad that you're out there doing it. Andy Moore on Nothing But Truth, AFR Talk.